Welcome to T is for Trauma. I'm your host, David O'Connor. My guest today is my good friend, Jose Porras. And in this episode, he talks about how a random misunderstanding during high school in his native Mexico escalated into an extended campaign of bullying against him that would eventually get so bad he would bring a knife to school to take matters into his own hands. He also talks about his decision to transfer to a military school in the US to escape the harassment, as well as becoming aware during college of his own struggles with depression before discovering that his family had a long history of suffering in silence with the condition. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Jose Porras. Jose, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
Pretty good.
As always, I like to start the show off with gratitude. And in this instance, the gratitude is thanking you for pre-recording an episode with me before the show had actually started. So you are one of the first people to volunteer to help out. And you offered to record a test episode with me, which was the foundation for getting some reps in and start to build out the interviewing skill set. So the place that I wanted to start out with was saying thank you for that. And that conversation, even though it will never air, is also the foundation for what we talk about today. And I think the story that you have to tell is one that I think a lot of people can connect with and that people will get a lot of value from.
Yeah, thank you for having me over. It was chaotic and interesting experience. I guess not most of it, but some of the equipment failed and cameras kept them stopping and mics going out. So
we call those learning experiences.
I think that's the reason why I was here. So it's good that we did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you for having me over again.
The place I wanted to start was not where I intended to start, but you are wearing your Explore Austin t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And I've already had Melanie and Becca on the show.
And they were both wearing this Explore Austin t-shirts?
No, they weren't, but that was the common theme with guests so far. And what I wanted to ask you about was what drew you to volunteering or mentorship, and how have you found it so far? And also, is this something you have done before?
So I grew up in a family where we did a lot of outdoors activities, camping, hiking, things like that. So I grew up with that. And when I moved to Austin, I wanted to get involved in those things again. And when I found out that there was a community service that did that, it was just made for me. It was the perfect thing for me. So that's why I signed up, which you are also part of. That's how we met. And I believe that before the episode we recorded before was before the camp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we already went through that, it was a blast. I had an amazing time. Also,
we got to spell out a little bit what that was.
Yeah. So Explore Austin, you haven't talked about it with Melanie and
not so much what the program is.
Okay. So basically the program, it's you work with kids that they are from low income families, and you take them to do outdoors activities, hiking, camping, kayaking, mountain biking, climbing. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. It's something that you do once a month. We're about to start in September. You already know this. But recently we had our first camp with them. And we got, out of the 10 kids, I think we got 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like a 4-day camp, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
I had a blast, man. I don't know about you, but I had a really good time.
So you'd mentioned camping growing up and the outdoors.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Ciudad Victoria, Tamaulipas. This state is in the south border of Texas. It's from the border of Texas, like 3 hours south.
Okay.
It's the capital city of Tamaulipas. So we would camp a lot in La Pesca, which is 3 hours east, 2 hours east now. We have a better highway now. So we would camp at the beach with my dad, my mom, my brother, sister. So I think those were my first camping experiences, if I'm not mistaken. And since it's in the middle of nowhere, it's like I think that was the very first time where I started falling in love with camping and seeing the stars at night.
Yeah.
Just listening to the ocean, things like that. And I don't know, I just grew up with this being a very special part of me. By the time I was at, I think it was 6th grade, it was in between schools. I used to go to a school called Ateneo, where they had me there because they had really good English. And then after that, they changed me to this Catholic school. And in between those two, my parents sent me to Canada for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, to this lake, to these lakes that are, I believe it's west from Toronto. And it was a 3-week camp where you would canoe in between lakes and rivers, and some hikes carrying the canoes on your head. So I spent 3 weeks in in nature, which was pretty fucking rough. But I learned a lot from it, and just had this love for nature installed in me after that.
So I want to talk about high school.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
So high school, high school is the main reason why we ended up getting together to do this project, podcast, because I told you, like, yeah, I mean, I've lived through a lot of shit in my life, but I think the one that was a big mark on my life that I feel it changed a lot was because of high school.
Right.
So my first year of high school, I'm on this new school. I just came back from this camp. Everything seemed great. I mean, I made some friends. Things looked good. Then it was, I believe, on my second year of high school where things started getting kind of tricky. I had some friends. I liked the people that I used to hang out with, but there was always something where I didn't completely click. And then I made this friend that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was the second or either the third year of high school, where this friend introduced me to his cousin, and I fell in stupid love with this girl. I just wanted to be with her. She was like the best thing that happened to the earth for some reason. I don't know why. So I started hanging out with this girl. It seems like she didn't want to be with me. Like, she liked hanging out with me because she would hug me and want to talk to me and chat with me all the time and wanted me to come home and blah, blah, blah. But she didn't want to date me. I'm not sure how the whole thing worked. And I think it's because she had a boyfriend that lived in another city, and she wasn't sure how to manage the whole thing.
Right.
So she told one of her friends the situation, I guess, and this guy, I think he probably also wanted to be with her, and that created some trouble for me. So I think it was my third year of high school, where it was kind of out of nowhere. One day I was just in my classroom, and this kid came looking for me, like, "Who's Jose?" "Oh, it's that kid over there." "Oh, you're fucking dead."
Wow.
And I was like, okay, it's fucking weird. I didn't pay attention to it because I just thought it was fucking weird, right?
Yeah, it's random.
Random as fuck. So that day, school's over, start heading out to the parking lot where our parents were gonna pick us up, and I was walking with this friend that introduced me to her cousin, and we sat at this bench, and I just got surrounded by a bunch of kids. I don't know how many there were. An overwhelming amount, and I was like, okay. My friend got up and left. Weird. And one of them stepped forward, and he was like, "You're this person, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, well, we heard you were talking shit about us." And I was like, "Who's us?" Like, "Yeah, you've been talking shit about us, yeah." And I was like, "I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, man." And he pushed me, and when he pushed me, I went back to the other kids that were behind me, and they pushed me again, and they started punching and kicking me. And, well, there's nothing I could do, right? I was, first of all, I have no idea how many there were, just a bunch of them. And second of all, I was a very small kid.
Yeah.
So the school director started breaking everybody apart, and just took me out of the crowd. And he was like, "What the fuck happened?" I was like, I have no idea. I really don't know what the fuck is going on." And then my parents picked me up. I went to home, and I think that's the most confusing day of my life, because everything is fine, and then you have all these enemies that you have no fucking clue who they are, and they just start beating you up for some reason.
Yeah, there's just a storm that descends.
Yeah, it was a very weird experience, because I had no idea what I had done to deserve that, right?
Were you hurt during this fight?
I don't think so. I mean, a couple of bruises, but it wasn't anything too bad. I mean, they didn't punch me in the face. I remember them kicking me a lot around the body, but nobody punched me in the face.
Right.
So, a couple of bruises, nothing terrible.
It's more just the shock of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, next day I come back to school. I'm nervous about the whole thing, because I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Again, the same thing happened coming out of school. Obviously, not the same amount of kids. It was, I guess, some of them realized that I had no fucking clue what was going on. But there were still, like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 of them. I don't remember. That were still, like, bullying me about the whole thing. And they started telling me that I was getting on chats with this email that wasn't even my name. And I was telling people things about them, that they sucked, and that...
Like instant messenger chats, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the time, right? It was
Yeah.
probably like 2008, 2007.
So it was kind of random, like, okay, you are getting messages on this instant messenger of me talking shit about you, but it's not even my name on the thing. The whole thing just sounded fucking shady, right? Like, just an excuse. And for the longest time, I had no idea what the fuck was going on. Just
Did you even know who any of these kids were?
no.
Okay.
I had no idea who they were. I just found out about their existence just because they started doing this to me.
Right.
And at this point, like, the friends that I had, like, which were not my real friends, they all disappeared. I was left with no one. They didn't want to deal with it. So I was left alone. So honestly, I didn't feel like I had anybody to help me out with the situation. But I didn't want to stop going to school. I didn't want to disappear. So I kept on showing up and trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. But it was really shocking, and it was a really hard fight to me to show up there every single day, knowing that these guys were going to bug me, because they were bugging me every single day about this.
Yeah.
Without me knowing what the fuck was going on. So I still remember how in the mornings, like, I couldn't brush my teeth without gagging because I was so nervous the whole time. I couldn't have breakfast because I just wouldn't feel hungry. I wouldn't eat a lot because most of the time I was just too nervous of what was going to happen next.
Yeah, I imagine the anxiety of the anticipation of what's coming that day must have just been horrible.
Yeah, and I remember that in the classroom I would be shaking because I knew that the class was going to be over soon and that I was going to get in trouble with these guys again, because they would keep on shoving me and punching me and things like that. So it was just not a cool experience to have these fucking strangers doing this to you for something that they're blaming you for, but that you didn't even do.
Was there any intervention from the school at all in this?
No, not at all.
Were they aware of it, or they just did nothing?
They were aware of it. At some point, my mom was like, I have to do something about this. And she talked to them, but there was nothing to be done. Eventually I found out that it was because of this girl that have talked to them, so one of them, and they made up this whole story about me, saying things about them. They were just trying to break me up from her and put me on this bad space, I guess. To this day, I don't know who was involved, who did the fake account, if it was even real. I have no idea. The problem was that at least I could go home and chill and be safe at home, and that's where I got like really into video games because I had no friends. So I would just play games at home, watch TV, not go out because it was my safe space. And one day they went to my home.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents weren't there. My brother and my sister weren't there. It was just me, and we had a lady that helped us at home, like, to watch me over when my parents weren't home.
Right.
So she came to me. She's like, "Hey, your friends are looking for you." I'm like, "Who?" And I came out, and it was 3 of them out there, and I was like, "The fuck?" And they told me, like, we know where you live now. And I was like, cool, like, what do you want? And they told me, we want you to find out who that guy is. If you say that it's not you, we want you to find out who he is. And if you don't find out, it means it's you, and we're gonna keep on punching you, we're gonna keep on doing this stuff to you. And I was like, okay, I'll try to find out. And of course it was bullshit. So
did you have any sort of communication with this girl at this stage?
No, I completely stopped talking to her.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure how the whole thing happened. I just know that at some point they told me something that I don't told her. So that's where I put 2 and 2 together, that she was involved. So I just stopped talking to her because of that. So yeah, just at some point I was just so tired of it that I took a knife to school.
Wow.
And that was the day that I was like done. Like, if these guys come to me again, I'm gonna fucking stop one of these kids, because I just need them to stop now.
How long had this been going on at this point?
I think it had been like 3-4 months.
Yeah, just every day.
Yeah, almost every day. Some days maybe they wouldn't do anything to me like as bad, but they would throw something at me. Like, I was just having lunch and something would hit me in the head, be like, turn around. It was one of them, like, fuck, dude, just, can you leave me alone, like, one single day?
Yeah.
And that day, the day that I brought the knife, I don't know what the hell happened, but I remember 3 of them coming over to me and telling me, like, hey, we find out that it wasn't you. We're sorry. We're going to leave you alone, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? What? It just blew my mind, like, out of nowhere. Yeah. Just the timing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what a coincidence.
Yeah. And that same day, right after those guys told me that, this girl came to me and she started talking to me like, I'm sorry, these guys, they did this because I told this guy about you and he got jealous and blah, 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 blah. And by the end of the conversation, she told me, like, but you did say this about these girls, right? And I was like, oh yeah, when I was joking about these girls, yeah, I said that. And she was like, oh, okay. And one of those guys was like overhearing the conversation. So the next day they came back to me like, oh, so you did say that about that girl. And I was like, that's the only thing I said. All these other things you said, and I was joking. All these other things you said, none of those things happened. No, yeah, you said everything. It's you. We know it's you. And they started bugging me again.
So she had misinterpreted something that you had said about somebody else as serious when you had just been joking around, and that had been the catalyst for this whole thing?
I don't even think that was like enough of an excuse. I just think, yeah, they were just looking for an excuse because what I said was something very dumb. It was just the way they used the letters to represent their group, and the play of words was like they were the cute girls, and all I said was that they're the hot girls. Gotcha. That's it.
Okay.
It's not even something bad. So you said, yeah, she asked me, you didn't say it's the cute girls, you said it's the hot girls, right? And I was like, yes, it is the hot girls. Like,
Yeah, it's just trivial.
Yeah. How does this matter? So it's something so stupid. So, yeah, they overheard that, and they were like, oh, so it's you're the one that's been talking shit, blah, blah, blah. And so, once again, I was trapped in this for another month or so until they got bored of it, and they started doing the same thing to some other kid in my school, which lasted like a week, and he stopped showing up.
Wow.
Yeah. So after that, school was over. My high school, the first 3 years you're in one building, and the other 3 years you're in a different building, so your times don't really match up. So all these kids were from a year above from mine. So when I moved to the next grade, I didn't have to deal with them for a full year, which great for me. But at that point, I didn't really have any friends anymore, and I didn't really want to have any friends anymore. So that year, I just kind of just went by. I mean, just spend it at home. I would hang out with the friends that I made through my mom's friends. But in school, I didn't really have like much friends that I could talk of, like no friends at all.
Yeah, I'd imagine at that time, after that experience, it must be very hard to trust people, like the kids your age in your class, also connect with people or just feel at all centered or present after having gone through something like that.
Yeah. And you kind of feel that you're going to run into these kids if you go out, so you don't feel like going out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you feel estranged in your community. So that year went by, and I knew that the year was going to be over, and all these kids would move to this building, and I was going to have to deal with them again. So at this point, I just wanted out. I was like, I want to get out of this city. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not enjoying this. I absolutely hate it. I hate this. And I talked to my parents about it, and they told me, okay, well, you can go to a military school if that's what you want. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I don't care. I just need to get out of here.
Did you know what that meant at the time, or
Oh, no.
It was anywhere but here?
Anywhere but here.
Yeah.
And so that's what they did. They sent me to this MMA school. It's called MMA because it's Mexico Missouri Academy.
So in the U.S.?
It's in the U.S.
Okay.
So that was a year of full exposure to English and racist American culture. Yeah, that town in Mexico, Missouri, very racist little town.
How so?
So the staff there, for example, nurses, if you were Mexican, they wouldn't believe you that you were sick. They would always say, like, you're pretending, just go back. Stomach aches. I broke my rib once. Like, headaches. None of them ever taken care of. The answer was always the same, like, stop pretending, just go back to your barracks.
Yeah.
So pretty much medically wise, it was me calling my mom and my dad and just asking them what to do and wait for the weekend so I could go to CVS or Walgreens just to pick up something for myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was the school predominantly white?
Yeah.
Okay.
50% white, 50% foreigner students. So like Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Mexican.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were they coming from those countries?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you have any kind of context as to how they heard about that or what?
It seems to be a
The
very
reasoning
popular
was?
school for like problematic kids, or
Okay.
in the case of the U.S. or kids from Mexico, and it seems to be very popular for a good curriculum for kids from Asian countries.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was used as an option, kind of like a boarding school for troubled kids?
Yeah. And
Okay.
as a very good curriculum for Asian kids.
Man, that's such an interesting mix.
Yeah. Yeah, because you had like these super smart Korean kids and these little criminals from America. Yeah, it was a very interesting mix.
I mean, that name, Little Criminals, I mean, it makes them sound adorable.
Yeah, they're the little criminal school. So you had like your everybody had traditions. White kids, like the Americans, whenever you had your first rank, they would give you a star. They would burn the star in their chest.
Huh.
That was like the initiation for the Americans. For the Mexicans, they would beat you up, like in between the seniors, like 3 or 4 of them at the same time. I was friends with one of the seniors. He was back from my hometown. So he told me, like, I got you, bro. They won't beat you up, but you're going to have to help us record how we beat up the others. And I was like, okay, I guess.
What?
So they gave me a cell phone, and we just went around recording how they beat up the other Mexican kids.
Oh, my God.
That was the initiation for Mexicans. And Koreans didn't really have anything. They were just, well, you know, they were more there for curriculum reasons, and they were really smart kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how that worked.
Was there a lot of fighting in general at the school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're just surrounded by testosterone, right? All these teenagers, problematic teenagers, trying to prove who's best. Yeah, there was a lot of fighting.
You had mentioned earlier that you broke a rib. Was that during fighting?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was, we were fighting on one of the rooms, and it wasn't like a real fight. This guy later on did punch me for real later on, but this one we were like kind of horse playing, but not horse playing, because, you know, it wasn't my choice, because as I told you, I was a very small guy growing up.
Yeah.
I'm a small guy. I was even smaller. So it was horseplay, but not really. And at some point, one of them landed with their elbow on my rib cage, and something just popped there. And I think I spent like a month not being able to, like, couldn't work out, couldn't even sleep. Like, I would have trouble breathing and sitting down. Like, I would try to stand up most of the time, because sitting down and laying down would hurt.
Yeah, cracking a rib is a tough one, because there's nothing you can
nothing
really
to
do.
do.
But also, you said the infirmary wasn't really helping you out, right?
Yeah, they weren't. So I tried to see what I could do, like see if I could get it scanned or something. But I called my dad and told him, like, I need to find a hospital or something so I can get it scanned. And he told me, look, man, if it's broken, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, so just wait. It's a shame that the nurse is not helping you, but she also can't do anything about it, so just suck it up. And it's funny that even though all this stuff was really, really tough, I still didn't feel as bad. I remember seeing some of the other Mexican kids just crying on the phone to their parents, like, I want to go back. Like, I just want to go back home. I don't want to be here. I never went through that.
Yeah, this situation was still a better alternative to where you came from.
I was still like, I'd rather be here, even though this fucking sucks. I just don't want to deal with that other stuff, you know?
That's what I wanted to ask you. How, during this time, did your mindset change, or have you started to feel differently just about your life, given that you're in this situation with a lot more structure, a lot more physicality, a lot more athletics? Did your mindset start to shift at all?
Yeah. I mean, not only I worked out more and turned into this person that needs to work out ever since, they gave me a lot of discipline regarding that, started eating better. It also changed my mindset, where I would have problems with other kids that wanted to fight me, where you can't hide, you live with them. So you don't have a choice but to show up. So I guess in a way, yeah, you don't really have a choice to either be brave or do what one of the kids did, that he took his name tag and he cut his arms, and
Jesus.
that was it for him. Like, he didn't die, but they expelled him after that.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't have him around. The kid was going to eventually kill himself.
Wow.
Yeah, he was one of the most bullied ones in that school, and the problem is that he didn't defend himself. And I didn't have a choice. I fought back. They thought it was funny because I was very small, but they also kind of respected it, I guess.
Yeah.
So, in a way, that helped me. For for them it's funny because they were large dudes. They don't give a shit. They can punch you and nothing's gonna happen to them. For me, it's not a game. For me, is this huge fucking dude is trying to fight me, so I'm gonna punch him as hard as I fucking can.
Yeah, the stakes are a lot higher for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of got used to that.
How long were you at the military school for?
It was just a year.
Okay. And then when you finished there, you went back to your old high school?
Yeah. I
Okay.
went back there for just one last year before college.
And what was that last year like?
So by the time I came back, all these kids knew that I was there. So somehow, I guess they thought that I knew how to fight and defend myself. I mean, I did get taller. I stretched in between that year. So I did get taller. I did get a little bit more muscular. I was still very skinny, but not as skinny as I was when I left because I ate way better and I worked out a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, they made me work out for a year. So they left me alone. Also, I guess a lot of time had passed by. But yeah, nobody gave me any trouble after that. And probably because they thought that I knew, since I was in this place, the rumors were that I knew how to fight.
Yeah.
Which I didn't.
Yeah, but you'll take it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like even though it was, how to phrase this, it was objectively a negative experience, that it still ended up having some benefits for you.
It did. I mean, thanks to that, I think I'm the person I am now. Like, I like working out a lot. I have a lot of discipline for that. I look up information about diet, eating better, things like that. I don't have like even 20% of the discipline I had when I came back. Making my bed, keeping everything pristine, clean, hanging my clothes, everything perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's insane. Not even people in the military do that.
Yeah, it's so hard to maintain that lifestyle.
Yeah. But yeah, it gave me some structure. It definitely got me out of this video game heavy phase of my life where that was it.
Right.
So yeah, I did learn a lot from that. I wouldn't do it again, and I wouldn't do it to my kids, but I learned a lot from it.
Yeah. So on to college. What is your experience like when you're there at that point? It sounds like you were starting to make more friends and socialize and kind of connect with people a little bit better.
Completely different life, yeah.
Was there any kind of holdovers from your high school experience in terms of issues you faced?
I mean, ever since I've always had a hard time trusting girls.
Yeah.
Doesn't help that my first girlfriend cheated on me. My second girlfriend cheated on me. So that made it worse.
Yeah. Were those long relationships?
1 year, both of them. 1 year one, 1 year the other. The first one, she cheated on me with the same guy that she cheated on her first boyfriend, which is kind of weird. Why would you cheat on two people with the same guy? That same guy didn't want to stay with her anyway, so what's the point? So weird. And the second one, I already knew things were kind of off. I kind of already saw it coming, but it still hurt. I opened the door to her with another guy, which is like a telenovela traumatic level of experience.
Yeah.
It was very weird because I totally didn't react the way I expected to. You know, in movies, it's like you open the door and the guy is there. It's like, who the fuck are you? And let's fight.
Right.
No, actually, I opened the door and saw a scene that crushed me completely. And I just turned into this gray blob of a man and just sat down on the bed between them.
Yeah.
And they were like looking at me like, are you okay? And I just sat down there for like a minute or two, just quiet. And then I stood up and I was like, I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah.
And they tried to stop me because I probably didn't look good. And I was driving my motorcycle.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to process.
Yeah. And they tried to stop me like, don't go. And I was like, nah. I just kept on walking, didn't even listen. I got on my bike and drove it as fast as I could.
Were you guys living together at the time?
No. But I had keys to her apartment because we would most of the time sleep together.
Yeah.
She would stay with me or I would stay with her most of the time. But this one time, she didn't make it home. She was supposed to stay with me. She didn't get there, and I thought it was weird. So I went to her place in the morning just to check her out if she was okay. And I found her with another guy.
Wow.
Yeah, when I opened the door, her roommate was in the living room. She turned around and saw me, and I saw her eyes, and I was like, oh, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
She looked at me with a face like, oh, fuck, this is going to be bad.
How old were you when this happened?
22,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 22.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, that sent me down through this path of mistrust with women. Yeah.
Was there a path out of that? Like, did you go talk to a therapist about this, or how did you kind of work through that or bounce back from that?
So, I think I've had depression my whole life.
Yeah.
Ever since I was very young, something was off. Turns out that it's genetic in my family. My grandma was depressed. My mom has depression issues. At some point, I think my brother, my sister, my father, all of them have taken some kind of medication. So after this second girl, this thing happened with this second girlfriend. I started going to therapy, like seriously going to therapy, and the psychologist told me like, yeah, you need to go to a psychiatrist. Like, you do need to take some kind of medication because I can help you on this state. So that's the first time I started taking antidepressants.
Was this something you had been aware of before this point?
Yeah, and I had conversations with my dad about it. He would be the one that would talk to me about it. And they didn't know. Like, my mom had depression for a very long time. She had an issue with her neck where her muscles didn't work. So she was like this all the time, which would make her dizzy and really hard to live her life. So she spent like 2 years in bed, super depressed, taking some medication but not really working. I have most of that blocked in my mind, I guess for a reason, because I probably was very shocking for me to see that.
This was when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she took Lexapro to start dealing with that, and eventually found a doctor that would inject Botox on her neck to loosen up the other muscles so her head could be like functioning in a regular way. So she knew that she had depression because of that. I mean, my grandma was miserable her whole life. She never took anything. She never went to a doctor because it was pretty taboo back in the day. I mean, she lived in the times where they would shock you, so kind of makes sense that you don't want to go to the doctor for that. So yeah, they already knew. My dad, when he would talk to me, he would tell me like, yeah, you're very smart, and just smart people tend to have a tougher life and think things more, and just it's just gonna be tough in general for you just because you're smart, which by now I just know that that's not the case. It's just a bunch of fucking anxiety and depression what was making it hard for me. And I remember having conversations where I would explain him what was going on to me, and it was anxiety what was happening to me, but he didn't know. He just, because the same thing would happen to him.
Yeah.
But his conclusion was like, oh, I'm very smart. I just need to keep myself busy.
Right.
It's not I have anxiety, which is where you have an idea and think it over and over and over and over and over and over, and you don't really have a solution. Just keep on blaming yourself and making it worse and worse and worried. So it's this crazy cycle where you never rest. And that's what I told him. That's what I'm going through. And he was like, yeah, it's because you're very smart.
So he didn't really have an awareness of any sort of like clinical condition.
He didn't know that it was anxiety.
Yeah.
But at some point, going through therapy and going through a psychiatrist, they gave me that diagnosis, and I started taking medication for it. I went through 4 or 5 different pills, had different bad side effects. I could spend a day talking about that, and these all different stories about that. But eventually I found out that the medication that my mom was taking was the one that worked for me. I just didn't know that she was taking that.
All right. Wow.
And the psychiatrist told me, yeah, like it's very common that when your parents have this genetic problem, whatever they're taking is working on them, it usually works on their kids. And I was like, well, fuck. I mean, if I had known.
So how did you connect the dots that your mom was also taking Lexapro?
Oh, I told her, like, I started taking Lexapro. And she was like, oh, that's the one I used too.
Right.
And then I went the next day with the doctor and told him, like, my mom takes that. And he was like, why didn't she tell you? I was like, I don't know.
Did you have any inkling before that point that your mom also suffered from depression?
No, not really. I don't think you notice what depression is until you really have it diagnosed and really know how to identify it on yourself. I think you can just think somebody is sad or going through a rough day or not sucking it up. It's very hard to understand what depression really is if you haven't gone through it.
Yeah. And then also, just to speak to what your dad said, I find this a lot with smart people, that struggling with anxiety, depression, any number of very common issues, there is this tendency for people to go, okay, I can just think my way out of this issue. And I mean, I understand, because that's how smart people are used to dealing with all of their problems. Yeah. And it just makes things so much more difficult, because you are trying to solve a problem in a way that is ultimately unsolvable. And I don't know. I don't know how to change people's minds about that, but it is something that I see people struggle with constantly. It's like, oh, I'll just think my way out of this. And it's like, okay, you're going to be running uphill for as long as you try to do this.
Yeah, and you get stuck in this cycle of self-blame because you're so smart. Why aren't you figuring this out yet?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be smart, right? Oh, no, you're stupid now. Oh, you're so stupid. You haven't figured it out. So dumb. No, that's why nobody likes you. That's why you don't have any friends. Yeah, that's why everything's going wrong. You should probably kill yourself. Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do. You should probably kill yourself because you're not made for this world. That's how it gets you. It just starts with this small little thing and it turns into this fucking huge giant of a problem where everything sucks. You shouldn't be here. You're not made for this world. Everything's against you. And it's just insane. How are you going to think yourself out of that? It's not something you can do. No, you do need to get help. You need to go to therapy. If you need the medication, take it. I fought it for a very long time. I knew that I needed antidepressants and I fought it for years because I was like, nope, I'm supposed to be able to do this without any medicine. My brain is supposed to be perfect. My brain is supposed to work by itself. And that's not the case. I would have saved myself from a lot of suffering if I had just gone ahead and done the thing that I was supposed to do from the very beginning. And the funny thing is that I failed that twice. The first time, I just didn't want to do it and spent years trying to avoid it because I didn't want to be the guy that took antidepressants. I stopped taking antidepressants after a year because I was done with therapy. I was done with the process of antidepressants. I was taken off them, so I was leveled out. So we wanted to find out if I could just keep on going with my life now without having to take any medication. And I was fine for the first 2 years. The third year I was miserable. And once again, I got stuck on this cycle where I was weak again and I'm going to need a pill again and I'm going to suck again. Why should I need a pill? Why should I need an antidepressant? I don't want to do this. So I kept getting stuck there and getting more and more miserable and start using weed again and start experimenting with shrooms again and start drinking a lot again. I started using all these other psychedelic options just trying to avoid that one fucking pill that already worked.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be the weak guy that is taking it.
Yeah, if we can rewind just really quickly, how did things change after you started antidepressants?
So my first experiences with antidepressants were terrible. I had very bad side effects with the first things I tried, but it's a trial and error thing. Psychiatrists don't know what's going to work on you until they find something that is actually giving you the effects that they're hoping for.
Yeah.
So the first ones I tried, I would feel very tired. definitely not working for me for school and things like that. Then they gave me this atomic bomb of a pill that I had to split in four. And even that fourth would make my tongue fall asleep when it would touch my tongue.
Do you remember what it was?
I have no idea, man.
Yeah.
I took it like 3 nights and I was like, fuck this. Because the third night, that thing knocked me out so hard that I almost passed out. Like, I remember that I was asleep and I just did a push up out of my bed because my pillow was stuck here and I stopped breathing.
Wow.
So I just did a push up just to get a gasp of air. And I was like, fuck that pill. That's too much. I don't want to deal with that anymore. But yeah, eventually they gave me the right thing. Took it for a year. It worked out.
And what changes did you see?
So when you start taking antidepressants, I think the first week you don't really notice much. Around the second, third week, you start feeling much better.
Yeah.
My brain gets on these very bad cycles where it's telling me that I'm this terrible person and that life is horrible and everything's against me and God brought me to this world just to suffer. Like, that's my brain when I'm on a very bad state. My serotonin receptors don't work. So I've heard before Jordan Peterson talk about this, where people that have serotonin receptors that don't work have something on brain that doesn't let them flick out of these bad cycles.
Okay.
Where, as I told you, you think this small thing takes you to this worse and worse and worse scenario in your head.
Right, there's this snowballing effect.
Yeah, where you end up at, I'm completely miserable and I just should be dead now. So on the third week, that thing starts triggering. You start to notice that, oh, I'm a piece of shit. Oh, wait, no, I'm not a piece of shit. Oh, I'm so fucking stupid. No, wait, I'm not stupid.
So it allows you to break that self-talk cycle much more easily.
Yeah, and you start to feel a little bit better. You start to sleep better. You start to eat better. You start talking to your friends again because you completely shut out from people. You start talking to your family again. You start to reach out again. At least that was what I felt from my end. This whole time, I've never stopped working out. I've never stopped trying to sleep well. Those things kept me sane. They helped a lot, but it didn't get me through everything.
Right. They were just a supplement to this base regimen.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, if I keep working out, if I keep sleeping well, I'm going to be sane. I'm going to be okay. Well, wasn't the case. So I was miserable at my job. I just fucking hated it. I hated everything. I would find a problem for everything. Everything would have an issue. Everything would be bad for something. My brain would just... My brain being myself, I would just take myself to that. Like, I would have an issue with civil engineering because we're cutting too many trees. So my job sucks and I'm a terrible person because I'm fucking destroying the environment.
Right. Just this fixation on certain issues.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. I would find a problem with everything. Like, find the negative side on absolutely everything. And you stop feeling that way or at least for myself, I just stopped feeling that way. I started enjoying my job again. I started enjoying the people I'm with again. So, yeah, I think that's around the third, fourth week where you really start to notice that difference. And then after a month or two, that's where I'm just back to my regular self again.
And was this also the way things unfolded the second time around?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the second time around, I took myself to a place where I didn't really want to take myself to, but I was very stubborn on trying to pull through without the medicine because I should be able to do it without it. But at some point, I was pretty much ready to end it. I was like, okay, in 3 weeks, I think I'm going to kill myself because I just don't want to do this anymore.
Was there anything specific that had kind of triggered that mind state, or was it just...
I just felt lonely, man. I had just moved to Austin. I had been in Austin for like 2-3 months. And since I was super depressed, I wasn't really putting in the work to make it work.
Yeah.
To try to meet people, to try to enjoy the city, to try to enjoy my work. I was just miserable. But it was because I was super depressed. So I was like, okay, I have moved. My thought was this: I have lived in 12 cities in my life, and I haven't been able to be happy in any of them. So the cities is not the problem. I'm the problem, and I can't fix it. So I'm not made for this world. So I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Because every single second here is fucking agony. So I hate everything. It's just hard to explain just the pain you feel
Yeah, that's a dark place to be.
all the fucking time, you know? I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, you're just super bummed out about everything. Sometimes it's hard to breathe. Sometimes you start crying uncontrollably. Bad panic attacks, just bad and overall. So I had a really, really, really bad panic attack after a series of small ones. So that day I just told myself, like, I think I'm done. I think I'm ready to just check out because I don't want to deal with this anymore. So I just marked. I had a calendar in my kitchen. I just looked at what was gonna be the third week, and I was like, okay, this day, that's the day that if things are not better about that day, I'm really gonna try. I'm really, really gonna try to make things better for myself. If by that day I'm not okay, then I'm done.
Yeah.
At least I tried. So I just got lucky, man. Honestly, because 4 days before that day, a friend invited me to Vegas. I don't know how it happened. I think maybe it's some kind of intervention that I cannot explain.
Yeah.
But I was at work on a Wednesday. This guy hit me up and told me, like, hey, I completely paid. I have these fully paid vacations for these two girls, and I don't want to go with them anymore. So how about you and this other guy that is my friend back from Houston? How about you and this guy? We go to Vegas and have a fucking good time.
Yeah.
All the flight is paid for, all hotel is paid for, concerts I pay for, everything. You don't have to worry about anything. And I was like, shit, okay.
Yeah. How do you say no to that?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I mean, why not, right? So I took off. I went to Vegas, had a blast, just lived through all these amazing things that I had never seen before. And I just got like a boost out of life. And I couldn't believe it. Like all the stuff that was happening, I just couldn't believe that all those things were happening to me. It was like, life's really cool if you are patient. If you just wait those 3 weeks, something good is going to happen. And I came back with a kind of different mentality once that happened. But I wasn't ready to get back on antidepressants or anything like that. I was like, I'm going to make this work. Like, you just have to wait those 3 weeks and something good is going to happen. And it's worth it to keep on fighting, to keep on being in this world. Just wait those 3 weeks. Just wait those 3 weeks. This was in October. By January, February, once again, things were horrible. And that's when I just told myself, I need to get help.
Yeah.
I need to get back on antidepressants.
I'm curious, in that span, like both before the Vegas trip and also in this period in January, February, did you have any awareness at all of like the macro psychological effects of what was going on, or did you just think it was like, my life is terrible?
I just thought my life was terrible.
Yeah.
I just thought I was a very unlucky person with a very terrible life.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the case. I mean, I have a good job. I can pay for my rent. Everything makes sense for me to be happy, right? I had friends. I had food. I had a roof. I had a bed, hot shower. I mean, I'm the fucking luckiest guy in the world, and I feel miserable. Why? So yeah, my brain just thought I just wasn't made for this world. That's why I would tell myself.
And so you go see this psychiatrist and you get started on another
So
round of antidepressants.
I didn't do it the conventional way. For me, it was always finding therapists from Mexico, psychiatrists from Mexico, because it's just the easy way to do it. Here in the U.S., it's super expensive and complicated, and insurance sucks, right? So what I did is that I talked to a couple therapists. They told me, yeah, you do need medication. Therapy is back from Mexico. But to get the medication, I didn't want to go back to Mexico, so I had to find a way to do it here.
Yeah.
And I already knew that Lexapro worked for me. So all I had to do was get the prescription, and that's it. That was the tricky part. Because when you're depressed, it's like you have a 100-pound vest on you that is extended on all your body, and everything is hard to do. So I put all my energy in trying to find the antidepressants somehow, and I just talked to insurance, talked to doctors, try to find a way where I could do this for not an insane amount of money, because it's super expensive if you just go the conventional way.
Yeah.
Eventually, from a lot of research, I ended up finding this app called K-Health. And through there, they contact you with a psychiatrist somewhere in the U.S. You just have a quick chat. You tell them what you used to take. They're like, okay, this is what worked for you. Yeah, this worked for me. Okay, then let's approve it. Boom, here's your prescription. You can pick it up at whatever pharmacy is close to your house. So that's how I did it. I was like, screw this. I've done therapy. I'm done with therapy. Therapy doesn't really help me anymore because I already talked the things that I had to talk through. Doctors already gave me the feedback I needed. I already worked it through. It makes sense. I'm okay with it. The things that happened in my life. This is not the case anymore. This is not what I need anymore. It's just I don't have that chemistry in my brain for me to go on. I just need the fucking pill. I don't need anything else. So I don't want to spend all this insane amount of money with a psychologist plus this insane amount of money with a psychiatrist. I didn't want to do that. I just want to take the fucking pill.
Yeah.
The way I did it before, because I had already done it. Took a pill without any supervision for a year. Just the first 4 months, I went to therapy. I talked to the psychiatrist. Okay, everything is well. Let's do the 8 months by yourself. We'll check with you every 2 months, see if everything's okay. Everything was fine. Everything worked fine. So, yeah, I wanted to do it that way. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to take this in for a year and see where it goes. And honestly, I've been feeling fucking great.
Yeah. What is your long-term outlook when it comes to antidepressants?
So I'm hoping to stop taking them in February. I know this is very irresponsible. You're supposed to be hand by hand with the psychiatrist, going through the whole fucking process. I know it's probably not the right way to do it. I wouldn't recommend it. I feel well enough to say I think this is going to work out because I feel fucking great. So I'm hoping that I can just slowly get out of them the same way I got out of them the first time, where you start shortening the dose. And hopefully I'll be balanced and be able to go through life without having to take them again. Now, if the case comes to this is something you need to take forever, I'm fine with it, man. I'll do it. I don't care. Like, my life is so much different when I'm taking them than when I'm not. That's a sacrifice that I'm willing to do. What, I can drink a beer with my friends? I don't give a fuck. I'd rather take the pill.
Right, because you can't drink while you're on them, right?
Yeah, you're not supposed to.
Yeah. What is the kind of blocker from working with a psychiatrist in terms of weaning off? Is it cost or just effort?
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
It's super expensive. And since we already went through the process where we figure out what I need, that's the tricky part for a psychiatrist. That's the part where you really need to work with someone, finding out which pill works for you. Because from people that I have talked to that are on antidepressants, all of them have the same experience where once you find out what you need, the psychiatrist basically just talks to you to go like, you cool? Yeah, I'm cool. Okay, you cool. Cool. We're good. Okay, keep on going.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people, that there's a lot of kind of like this turnstile effect where they're not really trying to fix the underlying problem. It's just kind of keep pumping out the prescription.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I already know which pill I need. I'm just going to keep on taking it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop taking it once it's a year, which has been the previous instructions from other psychiatrists, and take it from there. I went through a lot before I started taking them again. I graduated, had a girlfriend that I broke up with, had a really shitty job, lived in a city where I had no friends. Living in Houston wasn't the city for me. So then COVID happened. So it was a very stressful, shitty period of my life where everything seemed to not work. So I have the feeling that that's what took me down as well, really, really hard. Now life is completely different.
Yeah.
I'm in a city I love. I have a job I love. I love my friends. I have hobbies I love. So everything is in line now. So I feel like once I get out of the pill, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah, it's a much healthier mental space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. I wanted to go back to something that you said. You had mentioned that you had talked everything out with the psychologist that you felt you needed to talk about. Did you guys talk at all about the high school experience?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. The very first therapist that I went to, and this one was a very tricky situation. When I was in college, I didn't want to keep on studying. I wanted to drop out. I didn't like it. And it was there was some of that depression issue related to that. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
So my parents told me you can't drop out of college without seeing a therapist first because we want to know what's going on. And they made me go with this guy that his specialty was talking to people with drug problems. So he really wanted me to figure out life without any substance. No alcohol, no weed, no prescriptions. He wanted me to feel life. He was like, I don't want you taking medication because I really need you to feel everything, to go through everything in your mind, to think it through, to make it work. And I was like, cool, okay, no medication, that's fine. But I told him in one of the sessions that I'm sure that my parents are going to talk to you to convince me to stay. Which, I mean, being a parent, that's what you want, right? You want your kid to finish college and, go through the regular path of life.
Yeah.
I told him that. I told him my dad and my mom are going to talk to you behind the scenes for you to convince me to stay. And he told me, no, they're not going to do that. There's no way that wouldn't be right. We're here to talk and figure out what's going on with you. And I was like, whatever, man. And the next day that I went into that again, because it was like a very short period of very intense therapy sessions just to figure out things before school started. I went there and he was like, I'm sorry to tell you that what you told me yesterday was right. Your parents talked to me to try to convince you to stay. And I was like, okay, oh, fuck this, I'm done. And that was the last day I did therapy with that guy. So we really went through a process where, oh yeah, you need medication. It was more like, yeah, no, you're gonna figure out your life without any substance. Really feel it through, and yeah, you should drop out and go figure out life by yourself and try to work it out. So that's when I dropped out from school, like for a year and a half.
Yeah. And
no medication, no nothing. So I worked in different towns in Texas doing different stuff. Was pretty rough of an experience, but yeah, that was my very first experience with a therapist. After that, when I got back to college, got some sense into my head after facing reality and hitting a lot of walls. That's when I went with a therapist right after this thing happened with this girl.
Yeah.
And she's the one that I really talked with about past issues and about that high school thing. And when we came to the conclusion that none of this was my fault, that it's obvious that what happened, I was still angry about it, because it's like if somebody had broken my leg when I was 12 and it was broken in a way where I can't walk properly for the rest of my life. So yeah, you're still gonna be angry about it. It changed your life completely. It changed the way you see people. It changed the way you socialize. It made you go to this other school where you went through all these other things. So yeah, I mean, not your fault. You're totally right to be angry about this.
Yeah.
But now you're here, and now you're the person that you are thanks to that. Are you happy with who you are? Are you stronger? Are you better? Are you smarter? Yeah. So it helped me release a lot, talking this through, and having someone to tell me it's not my fault helps a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I kind of already knew it wasn't my fault, but in a way, I just felt that somehow I was to blame.
Yeah. You internalize that trauma and you say like, oh, the reason this happened to me is because I'm a bad person or I
Yeah.
deserve this, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and a therapist helps you see that that's not the case. And she was super nice. It was a very expensive therapy, but she had a different building in a poor area on the city, where she helped the people from that community with very, like, inexpensive sessions. She told me, like, I can keep on helping you. I know that it's very expensive for you to come here, but we still have some work to do. So what do you think the next 2 more months of sessions you come see me to this other building where I can charge you less because I don't have to pay these people for rent and all that.
Yeah. Wow. What a great offer.
Yeah. So she helped me out that way, and I kept on going with her for 2 more months. And she's the one that told me, like, yeah, you do need antidepressants. I went with a lady that my brother went with, and she's the one that I went through all these different medications with the bad effects. And yeah, eventually we found something that worked. I didn't finish the year taking them with her. It was later on when I went with another psychiatrist and started taking them and did the full year session.
Yeah. The style of therapy that you did, was it a specific modality that you chose?
No, it was just talking things out.
Yeah.
Nothing specific, nothing with, like, I know there's people that make you do puzzles and take walks and journal and all these things. No, for me, it was just talking things through.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems like you had a real connection with this therapist and that you were able to do some deep work with her.
Yeah, and at some point, I just came to realize that the sessions we were having weren't really being very helpful anymore. I had already talked the things I had to talk about.
It just reached a natural end.
Yeah, I was like, Donna, and I told her, like, I just don't really see how we should keep doing this. Like, I really have nothing else to tell you, and she was okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that most therapists are okay with you winding down the relationship when it feels like there's diminishing returns.
Yeah, and she's not the only therapist I went to. When I was done with college, it was a very shocking experience for me to go from college to moving to the U.S. where I know nobody and trying to find a job and all these things. And I did have another therapist that my sister was seeing. She started helping me out. So I had some sessions with her, like for 3 or 4 months, just to adjust to this new life. But at some point, it also came to a point where I just didn't have the need to talk to her anymore.
Yeah.
So we stopped talking, and I just kept on doing my life. The problem is that what happened to me is that I didn't realize that I was on a downhill. I think by the time that you realize you'd be digging a hole emotionally, it's kind of a little bit late.
Yeah.
You don't notice how deep you are until you are really fucking deep. So that's what happened to me the last time, and that's what pushed me into taking medication again.
Yeah.
And that's the process that I'm going through right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We are almost at time, and I was just curious in closing. I mean, there's a lot of different parts to that journey, ups and downs. Is there any part of that you would do differently if you were to do it all over again?
So this is something I think about a lot, because I remember really wanted to travel on time when I was going through all that in high school, where I'd be like, I wish I could travel on time and never meet this girl.
Yeah.
Or I wish I could travel in time and not go to the school. Or I wish I could travel in time and escape get out of my house, go somewhere. So that's something that I was, from that shock, that's something that I've always thought about. Like, if I was given the opportunity to start over again, would I do something this way or that way? And now my feeling about it is I don't want to travel in time.
Yeah.
That's my thought about it. Now I just want to finish my life. Like, I want to go through the whole experience and learn what I had to learn, do what I had to do. I think I did everything the best way I could with the tools I had at the moment. And that's taking me to where I am right now.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like you learned a lot about yourself along
Yeah.
the way, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm eventually at a place where I feel good. So, yeah, I think I did the things the best way I could. And trying to change them would only take me through this secondary path that I wouldn't know what the ripple effect of that would be. So who knows, maybe it would take me through this miserable path where I get run over by a train.
Well, Jose, I appreciate you showing up today and all of the vulnerability and the honesty that you shared in your story. And I think people will really connect with it and learn a lot from it.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't let you talk again.
It's all good.
I tend to steal the mic, I guess.
I think you did great.
Thank you, man.
All right,
Appreciate
awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.